The night was heavy with silence. The broken city stood like a graveyard of stone and steel. Once it was full of life. Now it was only a shadow. In the middle of this darkness, a young woman crawled through the ruins, her hands bleeding, her breath sharp. Her name was Ilara. She was tired of running, tired of hiding. She pressed her back against a cold wall and whispered, "Bury me here. I'm not fit for breeding." Her voice cracked with pain. Her eyes were full of tears. The cruel colony had taken everything from her. They did not see her as human, only as a tool, a body to keep their numbers alive. For many years, the colony forced women like her into chains. They were not free to choose, not free to live. To them, Ilara was weak, not strong enough. She had failed once before, and for that failure she was marked. They said she was worthless. They said she should be buried and forgotten. The wind blew across the ruins, carrying the smell of ash. Ilara closed her eyes. She wanted the earth to take her. She wanted silence, forever. But then she heard footsteps. At first, her heart froze. The colony's hunters often searched at night. If they found her, it was over. She pressed herself deeper into the shadows. Praying they would pass, the footsteps grew louder, steady, strong. Not many walked with such confidence. A shadow moved into view. A tall figure, scarred, dressed in torn clothes. His face was rough, his eyes sharp. He did not look like the colony's guards. He looked different. The man stopped, his gaze falling on her. Ilara tried to crawl away, but her body was too weak. She whispered again, "Bury me here. I'm not fit for breeding." The man frowned. His voice was low, calm, but strong. "You are not dead yet?" She looked at him, confused. Nobody had spoken to her like that in years. Nobody cared if she lived or died. The man knelt beside her. He did not touch her, only looked. His eyes were not cruel, not empty like the guards. They carried something else, something she had forgotten long ago, kindness. "Who are you?" she asked with broken breath. "My name does not matter," he said. "But I am not one of them." She shook her head. "Then why are you here?" He looked around, his jaw tight. "Because I lost everything too." For the first time, Ilara felt a spark inside her chest. He was not like the others. He was human, but not broken, not chained. There was something about him that pulled her back from the edge of death. Still, she did not trust easily. "If you are not with them, then you are hunted," she said. He gave a small smile. "Yes, hunted. Just like you." Silence fell between them, broken only by the sound of distant howls in the night. The ruins were not safe. The guards, the patrols, even the wild creatures all hunted the weak. Ilara clutched her arms around her body, trembling. "Why help me?" she asked. "I am nothing." The man leaned closer, his eyes steady. "You are not nothing," he said. "You are alive, and that is enough." Her heart ached. Nobody had spoken such words in so long. She wanted to believe him. But fear still chained her mind. Then the sound of metal echoed in the distance, the colony's hunters. Their boots struck the ground in rhythm, closer and closer. Ilara's breath quickened. She whispered, "Go, leave me. They will catch us, both." But the man shook his head. "No," he said. "I will not leave you." He reached out his hand. She stared at it. Her mind screamed not to trust, not to hope. But her heart longed for something more than death. Finally, with shaking fingers, she placed her hand in his. His grip was firm, warm, alive. He pulled her up slowly, supporting her weight. Together they moved into the shadows, the hunters' lights flickering nearby. The man guided her with care, every step measured. His presence gave her strength she thought she had lost forever. Behind them, the colony's soldiers shouted, their voices cruel. "Find her. She cannot be allowed to live." Ilara's body trembled, her lips whispered prayers. The man held her close and whispered, "Trust me, I will protect you." For the first time in years, Ilara felt something she thought was impossible. Hope, but in her heart, Fear still lived. Was this stranger truly her savior, or another kind of danger? Could she trust him, or would he betray her like the rest? The night carried no answer, only the sound of boots growing louder and the beating of two hearts united by desperation. The night was still heavy, the ruins stretched like endless bones of a dead world. Ilara leaned on the stranger as they moved, her legs weak, her heart racing. She did not know why she trusted him, but his grip felt real. His eyes did not shine with cruelty. They hid inside the skeleton of an old building, the walls broken, the roof open to the stars. The man lowered her gently onto a pile of cloth he had carried with him. It was not much, but softer than the stone floor. Ilara's chest rose and fell, her body shaking. "Who are you?" She whispered again. Her voice was thin, weak, but full of need. The man sat across from her, his eyes fixed on the darkness outside. "I told you, my name does not matter," he said. "But if you must call me something, call me Kale." The name felt strange to her ears, soft yet strong. She repeated it quietly. "Kale." He nodded once, his face unreadable. The fire in his eyes was not the fire of greed or control. It was the fire of a man who had survived too much. "You are?" "Not one of them," she said slowly. "Then what are you?" Kale did not answer at first. His hands gripped a piece of broken metal, sharp at one end, a weapon born from desperation. His silence stretched, and Ilara wondered if she had pushed too far. Finally, his voice came, heavy like stone. "I was once part of the colony," he said, "but I was cast out." Her eyes widened. "Cast out? Why?" He turned his gaze toward the stars through the broken roof. His voice grew softer, almost painful. "Because I refused to obey. I would not follow their breeding orders. I would not live as a slave to their system. So they marked me as useless. They hunted me, just as they hunt you now." Ilara's heart pounded. This man, Kale, was like her, broken by the same cruel hands. He was proof that not everyone bent to the colony's will, but still she doubted. "If you were one of them, why save me? Why not turn me in for reward?" Kyle's eyes snapped to hers, burning with intensity. "Because I know what it feels like to be thrown away. I know what it feels like when the world tells you that you are nothing. I will not let them bury another life, not while I still breathe." His words struck her heart. For years she believed she was worthless, weak, unfit. Yet here sat a man who believed otherwise. The silence grew heavy again, broken only by the distant sound of boots searching the ruins. Kyle leaned forward, whispering, "They are still hunting, but they will not find us tonight. I know these ruins better than they do." Ilara closed her eyes, her body aching. "Why do you care if I live?" she asked softly, almost as if she feared the answer. Kale studied her face, then said, "Because if you die, then the last piece of hope dies with you." Her chest tightened. She wanted to believe him, wanted to hold on to his words. But years of pain had taught her that hope was poison. Hope got people killed. Yet when Kale rose and stood at the broken wall, watching the night like a sentinel, something inside her stirred. For the first time, she felt safer than she had in years. She looked at him, the way his back was straight, the way his eyes scanned the shadows. He was not just surviving, he was fighting. Her lips trembled as she whispered to herself, "Maybe he is different." The hours passed slowly. The cold air cut into her skin, but she did not shiver as much with Kyle nearby. Her body finally gave in to exhaustion, her eyes closing against her will. When she woke, dawn was breaking. Light painting the ruins in pale gold, Kale was still awake, his weapon still in hand, his eyes red but sharp. "You stayed awake all night," she whispered. "I always stay awake," he said simply. "Sleep is dangerous." Ilara sat up, her stomach twisting with hunger. Kyle reached into his torn bag and tossed her a small piece of dry bread. It was hard, stale, but she ate with trembling hands. As she chewed, she asked, "What will happen now? Where will we go?" Kale's face grew dark. "If we stay, they will find us. If we run, we might survive. But the road is long and full of death. Her hands shook. Then why take me with you? I will slow you down. He looked at her sharply. Because you are not meant to die here, Alara. You are more than what they say you are. Her heart pounded. She wanted to cry, not from fear, but from the strange warmth his words gave her. But then, before she could speak, a sound shattered the morning calm, the howl of a horn, deep and sharp. It echoed across the ruins. Alara's eyes widened. They found us. Cale gripped his weapon tighter, his jaw clenched. Stay behind. Me, he ordered. She shook with fear, pressing her back to the wall. The sound of boots thundered closer, voices shouting. Cale stood tall, his shadow covering her. I told you, he whispered without looking back. I will protect you. Ilara's breath caught. In that moment she realized he was not just a stranger. He was her only shield against the cruel world, but still, a question haunted her heart. Would Cale protect her because he cared, or because he saw her as his chance for revenge against the colony? The horns roared again. The ground shook with boots, and the ruins trembled with the promise of violence. The ruins still echoed with the horns of the hunters. Cale led Alara through broken alleys, their steps quick and silent. His grip on her hand was firm, guiding her like a shadow through the bones of the city. They reached an old tunnel beneath the streets. Hidden by rubble, Cale pushed aside stones and opened a dark path. Here, he whispered, we hide below. The tunnel smelled of dust and damp earth. The walls were cracked, water dripping in the dark. Ilara's chest rose and fell with fear. But she followed him, trusting his strength. They walked until the light of day was gone. Only the faint glow of a torch in Cale's hand lit the way. At last they stopped inside a wide chamber where broken machines rested like sleeping beasts. Ilara collapsed against a wall, her body shaking. Her heart raced not just from fear, but from something deeper. For days she had felt it, the strange sickness in her stomach, the weakness in her limbs. Now it grew stronger. Kyle watched her carefully. You are not only tired, he said, his voice sharp with concern. She closed her eyes, her hands pressed to her stomach. A whisper escaped her lips. I think I carry a child. The torchlight flickered across Cale's face. His jaw tightened. His breath caught. For a long moment he said nothing. The silence pressed heavy in the tunnel. A child? He finally asked, his voice low. Ilara nodded, tears burning her eyes. I thought my body was too broken. I thought I was unfit. But now... Her voice trembled. I feel it inside me. Cale turned away, pacing the chamber. His hand gripped his weapon until his knuckles turned white. If they discover this, the colony will never stop hunting us. This child will be forbidden. It is not theirs, it is free. Ilara lowered her head, shame and fear twisting inside her. Then I should not live. I should not bring this curse. Cale spun back toward her, his eyes blazing. No, do not speak that. This is no curse. This is life. This is rebellion. Her lips trembled. She had never seen anyone defend her like this, never heard such fire in a voice. Still, fear weighed on her. But they will kill us both. They will tear the child from me. Kyle knelt beside her. His hand hovered near her shoulder but did not touch. His voice was softer now. Then we run, we hide, we fight if we must, but this child will not be taken. Ilara's tears slipped down her cheeks. She wanted to believe him, but the colony's power was too strong. They ruled with iron chains. They controlled who lived, who died, who was born. To carry a child outside their command was to declare war. For the next days, Cale led her deeper into the tunnels, then out into wild lands where the ruins ended. They walked across dead fields and broken forests. The world above was harsh, but there was no one to command them. At night, Ilara dreamed of hunters, dreamed of chains. She would wake trembling, Cale always awake beside her, guarding, his eyes never at rest. Her sickness grew worse, but so did her strength in another way. Every time she felt the life moving inside her, a spark lit in her chest. This child, this forbidden child, was proof she was not worthless, not broken. One night, as they sat near a dying fire, Ilara whispered, "Kyle, why do you fight for me? Why not walk alone, easier, safer?" Kyle stared into the flames. His voice was quiet. "Because I see something in you, Ilara. Something I thought was gone. The world has forgotten what it means to hope. But you carry it." She shook her head. "I carry only fear." He looked at her then, his eyes hard. "No, you carry tomorrow." Her heart stung with his words. She wanted to believe, but her mind still feared. Suddenly, a sound broke the night. Distant voices, the crack of branches. The hunters. Kale's face turned cold. He rose with his weapon. "They have found us again." Ilara clutched her stomach, her breath quickening. "No, not now. Not here." Kale pulled her to her feet, his grip steady. "Listen to me, Ilara. Whatever happens, you must keep moving. You must protect the child." She stared at him, tears in her eyes. "And you?" He gave a small smile, bitter but strong. "I will hold them off. I always do." The glow of torches flickered through the trees, voices growing louder. Kale stood between her and the firelight, his figure tall, unbroken. Ilara's chest burned with terror. But beneath the fear, something else began to grow. For the first time, she did not want to run only for herself. She wanted to run for the child, for the life inside her. The hunters shouted. Steel clashed against stone. Kale turned to her one last time. "Do not give them this child. Do not give them victory." She nodded, her tears falling. "I will not." The night exploded with sound, the hunters breaking through the trees. Kale raised his weapon, his voice like thunder. "Come then. You will not take her." Ilara ran into the shadows, her heart pounding, her arms wrapped around her stomach. Behind her, the clash of battle roared. The forbidden child was now more than survival. It was hope, and hope was dangerous. The night was alive with fire and steel. Behind Ilara, Kale's voice roared as he fought, the clash of weapons echoing through the forest. She stumbled forward, branches tearing at her skin, her heart racing like a drum. She pressed her hands against her stomach, whispering again and again, "Stay alive, stay alive." The hunters' torches burned bright in the distance. Their voices shouted commands. Dogs barked and snarled. The sound of Kale's struggle still carried through the trees, then a cry of pain. Ilara froze, terror gripping her chest. Was he gone? Had they killed him? But then another shout came. A hunter screaming, another falling. Kale still fought, still held them back. Ilara forced her legs to move. She could not stop. If she did, both she and the child would be lost. The forest seemed endless, the shadows thick and twisting. Every step was heavy, her body weak, yet every step was also a choice. She would not surrender. Suddenly a figure appeared ahead, a hunter, tall and armored, blocking her path. His torchlight blinded her eyes. He raised his spear and growled, "Stop there, run away." Ilara's breath caught. She backed away, but before the spear could strike, a shadow burst from the side. Kale, blood on his face, wounds on his arms. He slammed into the hunter with a roar. The spear fell. Kale's weapon rose. The man collapsed in silence. Kale turned to Ilara, his voice urgent. "Move now." She wanted to cry, to tell him to rest, but his eyes were fire. He would not stop. He grabbed her hand, pulling her deeper into the forest. The shouts of the hunters grew closer, dozens of footsteps pounding the ground. The night became a blur of running, of gasping for breath, of fear chasing them like a storm. Ilara's legs ached, her chest burned. She wanted to fall, but Kale's grip dragged her forward. They reached a river, wide and dark. The current rushed with violent power. Kale looked at her, his jaw tight. "We cross." Ilara shook her head. "The water will kill us." Kale's voice was hard. "The hunters will kill us faster." He stepped into the water, the current pulling at his legs. He held out his hand. "Trust me." Her stomach twisted with fear, but she took his hand. Together they waded, the river rising to their waists. The water was cold as ice. Her body trembled. The current dragged at her feet, trying to pull her under halfway across. Elara slipped. Her scream cut the night. Cale pulled her up, holding her tight. His voice thundered. "Hold on, Elara, hold on." With one final push, they reached the far side, collapsing on the muddy bank. Elara coughed, her body shivering. Cale stood quickly, scanning the forest. "They will not stop, we must keep moving." Her tears fell, but she nodded. She forced herself up, leaning on him. The forest grew darker, the torches behind them scattered as the hunters searched the river. For a moment silence returned, but Cale did not relax. His eyes moved always, searching, listening. "They will come again," he whispered. "They never give up." As they walked, Elara looked at him. His body was bleeding, his clothes torn. Every step seemed heavy, yet he carried himself like stone. "Why do you fight so hard?" she asked softly. "For me, for this child. You could leave, survive alone." Cale stopped. His eyes found hers in the moonlight. "Because I was alone once, and in the silence I realized something. Survival is nothing without someone to protect." Her heart shook at his words. She had lived so long believing she was nothing. And now here was a man bleeding, fighting, dying for her. Suddenly, the sound of horns cut through the night again. Louder than before, the hunters had found their trail. Dozens of voices shouted, the forest alive with pursuit. Cale grabbed her hand. "Run!" They ran until the forest thinned, the ground rising. Ahead was a bridge, broken and crumbling. It stretched over a deep canyon where water roared far below. Elara's legs faltered. "Cale, we cannot cross, it will fall." Cale's jaw tightened, his eyes burned with defiance. "We cross, or we die here." The hunters burst from the trees behind them, torches blazing, arrows ready. The leader raised his arm, his voice like thunder. "Seize them." Elara clutched her stomach, fear rising like fire. Cale pulled her toward the bridge. The stones shook under their steps, cracks splitting the ancient path. Rocks fell into the canyon below, swallowed by the roar of water. The hunters poured onto the bridge behind them. The weight of so many feet shook the crumbling stone. The air filled with dust and breaking sound. Halfway across, the bridge groaned, a crack splitting down the middle. Cale shoved Elara forward. "Go! Do not stop!" She stumbled, crying, her feet bleeding, her lungs burning. But she did not stop. She reached the far side and turned. Cale was still on the bridge, fighting as hunters closed in. The crack widened, the bridge collapsing. Hunters screamed as they fell into the canyon. Cale's body lurched with the stones. Elara screamed, reaching out her hand. "Cale!" The bridge split apart. Cale leaped, his body striking the edge of the far side. His hand clawed at the rock, his weapon clattered into the canyon. His grip slipped. Elara threw herself forward, grabbing his wrist. Her arms shook, her body straining. "I will not let you fall," she cried. His eyes met hers, fierce even in pain. His voice rasped, "Then hold on, Elara, because the chase has only begun." Behind them, the last of the bridge collapsed. The hunters still alive raised their horns, calling for more. The night was not finished. Their fight had only grown. The broken bridge was gone behind them. The canyon swallowed the hunters who had fallen, but Cale and Elara knew it was not victory. It was only a pause. The colony would not stop. Elara pulled Cale onto solid ground, his arms cut and bleeding. His chest rose with heavy breaths, yet his eyes were still sharp, still burning. She whispered, "You almost fell, I almost lost you." Cale gave a small smile through his pain. "But you did not let go. You are stronger than you know." Her heart swelled, but fear still gripped her. The hunters would return. The horns echoed faintly in the distance, already calling more soldiers. Cale stood, though his body trembled. "We must move before they gather again." Through the night they walked, the forest thinning into empty fields by dawn. The sun rose over broken lands scattered with ruins. There in the distance, smoke curled from a small settlement. Elara's body ached, her feet raw, her stomach heavy with the child. She could not walk further. Cale saw her weakness and nodded toward the smoke. "There, We rest there. They reached the edge of the settlement. It was small, hidden, huts built from stone and scraps. Faces stared from the shadows, thin and hollow-eyed. People who lived outside the colony, survivors of their cruelty. An old man stepped forward, his hair gray, his eyes dark but kind. "Strangers," he said. "Few come here. Why do you walk into danger with blood on your clothes?" Kale stood tall, his voice steady. "We need shelter, food, and rest." The man studied them, his eyes lingering on Ilara's swollen belly. He frowned. "A child?" Ilara lowered her gaze, fear twisting in her stomach. The man's eyes flickered, with something unreadable, but then he nodded. "Come, you may rest." They were led to a hut, small but warm. Food was given, water too. For the first time in weeks, Ilara ate without fear. Kale sat by the door, his hand never far from his weapon. As night fell, Ilara whispered, "Maybe we found safety. Maybe not everyone is cruel." Kyle's eyes stayed hard. Safety is a dream. Dreams can turn to traps. But exhaustion finally took them. Ilara slept. Her hand over her stomach, Kale leaned against the wall, his eyes heavy. He did not notice the old man slipping away into the night. At dawn, heavy boots struck the ground. Voices shouted. The hut door burst open. Hunters poured in with weapons. Drawn. Ilara woke with a cry. Kale leapt to his feet, but too many surrounded him. The old man stood at the door, his face cold. "Forgive me," he said, "but your heads bring food for many. I could not refuse the reward." Ilara's heart shattered. She clutched her stomach, screaming, "You sold us." The man's eyes flickered with shame, but he turned away. The hunters bound Kale in chains. They tore Ilara from his side. Her screams echoed. Kale's voice thundered. "Let her go, take me instead." The hunters only laughed. "She carries the forbidden child," one said. "The leaders will want her alive." They dragged them to the center of the settlement. A prison pit waited, deep and dark. Kyle was thrown in, chains heavy on his wrists. Ilara was locked behind bars, her body trembling with fear. The old man watched in silence as the hunters prepared to march them back to the colony. His people whispered around him, some with pity, some with hunger. Survival had no mercy here. In the pit, Kale sat against the stone wall, his face bleeding. His voice was low but strong. "I warned you, Ilara. Safety is a trap." Ilara clung to the bars, tears falling. "What will they do to us?" Kale's eyes darkened. "To me, death; to you, they will take the child, raise it as their own weapon." Her chest ached. She shook her head violently. "No, I will not let them. I will die before I give them this child." Kale looked at her then, his voice steady. "You must not die, Ilara. You must live, even if it costs me." Her tears fell harder. She wanted to hold him, but chains and bars kept them apart. The hunters laughed, mocking their pain. The leader spat into the pit. "You thought you could run, but no one escapes the colony." Ilara's fists clenched. Around the bars, her voice broke into a whisper. "Hope is a curse, Kale. Maybe I was wrong to believe." But Kale's eyes burned like fire. No, hope is all we have, and hope is what they fear most. At that moment, a thunderous blast shook the ground. The prison walls cracked. Fire ripped through the settlement. Hunters screamed as an explosion tore apart their ranks. Smoke filled the air. The old man fell to his knees, shocked. Ilara shielded her face as debris rained down. Kyle leapt to his feet, his chain snapping loose in the chaos. Through the smoke, figures appeared, shadows with weapons. They were not colony hunters. They were rebels, outcasts like Kyle. Their leader shouted, "Take them, free the prisoners!" Kyle grabbed Ilara's hand through the broken bars, his voice fierce. "This is our chance, do not let go." Ilara's heart pounded. For the first time, she realized their fight was bigger than just the two of them. The forbidden child was not only hers. It was a spark, a fire waiting to spread. As the flames consumed the settlement, Kale's voice rose above the chaos. "We will not be buried, Ilara, not now, not ever." The flames devoured the settlement. Smoke rose like a black wall against the sky. The rebels moved fast, striking down the hunters. Kale ripped the broken chains from his wrists, his body raw with blood and fire. Alara stumbled from the shattered cage, her hands over her stomach. Kale caught her, pulling her close. His voice was fierce. "Stay with me, Alara, do not leave my side." Around them the battle raged, arrows flew, blades clashed, the rebels fought like wolves. But the colony's hunters were many, stronger, better armed. The rebel leader, a woman with scars across her face, shouted above the chaos. "We cannot win here. Fall back. Retreat to the woods." Kyle nodded, pulling Alara toward the edge of the burning huts. But the hunters saw them. Their voices roared. "The woman, the child, do not let them escape." Alara's heart froze. She clung to Kale, fear wrapped around her chest like iron. The hunters pressed forward, arrows raining down. A rebel fell at her feet, blood staining the dirt. Kale's grip tightened, his eyes blazed. "We cannot run forever, Alara, they will never stop." She shook her head, tears spilling. "Then what do we do?" Kale looked at her, his face carved with pain. "We fight, even if it costs everything." He turned, lifting a fallen sword from the ground. His arms shook from wounds, but his stance was unbroken. He charged into the hunters, a storm of fury. His roar split the night. Alara screamed his name, but his body moved like fire. Blade cutting through enemies, blood spilling. The rebels rallied around him, inspired by his rage. For a moment, the hunters faltered, but more came, wave after wave. Their horns blared, their boots thundered. Kale's breath grew heavier, his wounds deeper. Still he stood, still he fought. Alara pressed her back against the wall of a burning hut, her arms around her belly. Tears streamed down her face as she watched him. He was only one man, yet he stood like an army. Suddenly a spear struck Kale's side. His body staggered, his breath caught. Alara cried out, "Kale!" He ripped the spear free, blood pouring. His eyes met hers across the battlefield. In them was no fear, only fire. He shouted, "Live, Alara! Live for the child!" She shook her head violently. "No, I will not leave you." But Kale turned, his blade flashing, fighting with the last of his strength. Hunters fell, rebels cheered. Yet Kale's body faltered, his knees buckled. The scarred rebel leader grabbed Alara's arm, pulling her away. "We must go. He fights for you. Do not waste his sacrifice," Alara screamed, struggling. "No, I cannot leave him." Kale's voice thundered again, broken but strong. "Go, Alara. Please, if you love me, go." Her heart shattered. Her tears burned. She wanted to run to him, to hold him, to never let him fall. But the hunters closed in, the rebels dragging her toward the forest. Her voice tore the air. "Kale." He turned one last time, his face covered in blood. His lips formed the words, "I will always protect you." Then he charged into the heart of the hunters, his body a shield, his roar shaking the night. The rebels pulled Alara into the shadows. She stumbled, screaming, fighting. But the forest swallowed her cries. Behind her, fire roared, steel clashed, and Kale's figure disappeared into the storm. The rebels dragged her through the dark, the leader's voice harsh but steady. "He gave us time. Do not throw it away. The child is everything now. The child is hope." Alara's chest ached. Her breath came in sobs. She stumbled but did not fall. She pressed her hands against her stomach, whispering, "Your father is brave. He is stronger than the world. I will keep you safe. I swear it." Behind them, the night shook with one final roar. Kale's voice echoing through the fire. Then silence, heavy, endless. Alara fell to her knees, the rebels around her silent. Her tears wet the earth. Her voice cracked. "He is gone. He gave his life for us." The scarred leader placed a hand on her shoulder, her voice low. "Not gone. His fire lives in you, in the child. Do not let it die." Alara lifted her face, broken yet burning. She whispered, "Then I will not. I will carry his flame. I will carry his hope." The forest was dark, the future uncertain, but something inside her had changed. She was no longer only a victim, no longer only running. She was a mother, a fighter. She would live, not for herself, but for the child, and for Kale's sacrifice. The Idam forest was silent now. only the sound of wind through the trees. Ilara stumbled forward with the rebels, her body weak, her heart torn apart. Behind her, Kyle's sacrifice still burned in her mind. His roar, his final charge, the fire that swallowed him. She pressed her hands against her stomach, whispering, "Your father was brave. He gave everything so you may live." Her tears fell, but she did not stop. She could not stop. The rebels guided her deeper into the wild lands, away from the reach of the colony. For days they traveled, moving through mountains and valleys. Each night Ilara dreamed of Kale, his voice telling her to keep walking, to protect the child. Her body grew heavier, her time near. The rebels saw her struggle and built shelters from branches. They brought food when they could, hunted beasts in the woods. Yet Ilara knew this was not only her fight, it was the fight of all who had been broken by the colony. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, Ilara felt the pain strike, sharp and deep. Her cries echoed through the camp. The rebels rushed, their leader kneeling beside her. "It is time," she said. "The child is coming, through the night." Ilara fought with her body, pain tearing through her. Her heart longed for Kale, his hand, his voice, his strength. But she remembered his words. "Live, Ilara, live for the child." At dawn, the cries of new life filled the camp. A small child wrapped in cloth, his breath warm, his fists tiny. Ilara's tears fell as she held him close. Her whisper broke the silence. "You are his gift, his hope, his legacy." The rebels gathered, their eyes shining with something they had not felt in years. Hope. The scarred leader raised her weapon and spoke. "This child is not only hers. This child belongs to us all, a symbol of freedom, of rebellion. The colony will fear him, and for that we must protect him." Ilara looked at their faces, faces that had known only pain, and saw the spark in their eyes. Kale's sacrifice had not been in vain. His fire had spread. As the child grew, Ilara grew stronger. She was no longer the broken woman who once begged to be buried. She trained with the rebels, learned to move silent in the woods, to fight with blade and bow. Each scar on her body became a mark of survival. At night she told her child stories, stories of his father. She told him of the man who stood against the hunters, who fought when the world said he should fall. She told him, "Your father gave his life so you could be free, and you will never be their slave." The child's laughter, his cries, his small steps, each one was a victory against the colony. Each one was proof that life could bloom even in ashes, but danger never vanished. The colony still searched, still sent hunters. Still, Ilara no longer ran in fear. Now she ran with purpose. Now she stood with others. One night, a scout returned. With news, the colony weakens, rebels rise in many places. Kale's name is whispered. They say a man died on the bridge of fire. They call him the Unbroken Flame. Ilara's chest ached, her tears fell, but she smiled. Yes, he was the Unbroken Flame, and we carry his fire now. Years passed. The boy grew strong. His eyes carried Kale's fire, his smile carried Ilara's hope. The rebels looked at him as more than a child. He was a banner, a reason to keep fighting. One evening, Ilara stood with him on a hill, the stars above shining like endless fires. She whispered, "I once begged to be buried. I thought I was nothing. But now I see I was chosen to carry this flame, to carry you." The boy looked up at her, his voice small. "Will they ever stop chasing us, Mother?" Ilara placed her hand on his cheek, her voice steady. "They may chase, but we will not fall. We will fight. We will live. Because we are more than their chains. We are their fear." She looked into the distance, where the colony's towers rose like black teeth against the horizon. For the first time she did not tremble. For the first time she did not whisper for death. Instead, she raised her child high, his laughter ringing into the night. Her voice was strong, carrying Kale's fire. "Bury me? No, I will never be buried. Not while his blood flows, not while his fire burns in us. We will live, we will rise, and we will never bow." The rebels cheered, their voices echoing into the stars. In that moment, Ilara was no longer just a mother. No longer just a survivor, she was the voice of hope, the keeper of Kale's legacy, the spark of a new dawn, and in her arms, the forbidden child smiled, innocent yet destined. The world had called him impossible, but here he was, proof that life could not be chained, proof that freedom could be born. The night was dark, the road still long, but the fire inside them would never die. The legacy of Kale, the flame of Ilara, and the laughter of the child became the beginning of a new world.